Hey everybody, this is Natalie from Live Naturally Natalie, and today I'm going to talk to you about how to transition from a highly processed diet to a more whole foods diet. So what is a highly processed diet? This may be simple, you may already know this, but if you don't, a highly processed diet would be something that has a lot of sugar, a lot of ingredients that are more man-made. It might have a lot of sodium. There might be some lousy fat additives. There might be some chemical preservatives that are going to extend the shelf life of the product. So, fast food, anything that, I don't want to say anything that comes in a box. You get the idea. What are whole foods? So whole foods are basically eating foods that are as close to the source as possible. So plants that are grown, that are natural, grains that are natural, like rice or quinoa, anything that's unprocessed or unrefined, something that's naturally nutrient dense and full of vitamins and minerals. And whole foods are really just things that are better for you and better for your environment. Moving right along. How do we transition? Maybe you are someone who eats a lot of processed foods. Maybe your life is crazy and you don't have time to cook, or maybe you hate to cook and it's just easy to grab McDonald's, or it's easy to grab a granola bar, or whatever it may be. Maybe you have no idea, like, how in the world am I gonna figure out how to eat healthier or a more whole foods based diet? So if that's how you feel, then this video is for you, because I'm gonna break it down. And I will also tell you that transitioning from a processed lifestyle to a whole foods lifestyle is not going to happen in a week, or maybe even 2 weeks or a month. With anything that I do with health coaching, and by the way, side note, this is something that I have a huge guide that I help my clients do in health coaching. If this is something that they're interested in doing, I can help them switch from a processed to a whole foods diet with support. I can also help anyone who's looking to go vegan or vegetarian, someone who's looking to go gluten-free and dairy-free. Any of those things, I can help you with any dietary transitions. I have all kinds of tools to help you, and of course support. So support is really important. Anyway, as you're transitioning, just give yourself grace and know that this is not something that's going to happen overnight, and that's okay. It's better in the long term if you do things, little steps at a time. If you just try to overhaul your life tomorrow into a whole foods diet, it's not going to last. I'm going to tell you that right now. It is not going to work. And maybe that's your personality, but I've worked with clients who have done these little steps and they're like, how in the world is this going to help me change? And then we look back after we go through 3 months of coaching and they're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea how far I've come just from doing these little steps. Like, they didn't even think they were doing much. So just remember those little steps that you can add in. And I'm going to give you a whole host of ideas. And just remember, it might be a lot of info, it might be overwhelming. I want you to take just a couple of things and start implementing them right away. Just a couple, not a complete overhaul, because again, if you do that, it's not going to be sustainable. So the first thing that you want to do is just kind of take stock in what you're eating. So just start writing down, or maybe in your mind, just think through your normal day and try to get an idea of how much processed food you're consuming. And don't be judgmental with yourself. You're just being curious and you're just thinking about, okay, how much am I taking in right now? So take stock of that. Another thing I like to think of is, instead of counting calories, not that that's bad, there's nothing wrong with it. Think about, as you're transitioning, to make it a little bit simpler, think about counting chemicals. So think about consuming as close to the source as possible. For instance, Farmer Joe, he grows potatoes and tomatoes and all that. So think about as close as you can eat toward what Farmer Joe's growing, the better. The less chemicals you eat, processed food, all those ingredients that you can't pronounce, the better. So don't think so much about calories right now, unless you're on like a super strict thing, whatever, that's fine. But if you're just kind of overwhelmed by this whole idea, think about getting less chemicals in your body from the food that you're eating. And again, just think about, adding a little bit more whole foods into your diet every day. And the more you're adding those in every day, then you're going to start phasing out some of those highly processed foods. So maybe an apple instead of a granola bar, or maybe, celery and peanut butter for your snack instead of a frappuccino. I don't know. Think about making small substitutions at first and just kind of slowly replacing one thing at a time, and then over time you'll start to see how you're slowly phasing out those processed foods. Okay, another thing that you can do to help with this transition is to cook at home. And maybe you don't like to cook at home, and that's okay. Maybe this is something new. Maybe you've wanted to cook from home, but you just haven't taken the time to try. So if you don't cook at home at all, try to think of a small goal, like maybe I'm going to cook at home 2 to 3 nights a week, something small, just to start there, and then you can grow from there. So if you don't cook at home at all, don't all of a sudden set this goal like, okay, I need to cook at home 6 days a week or I'm gonna fail. Don't do that to yourself. Just start small and, go from there. And if you really don't like cooking, think about maybe a food delivery service like Fresh Meals. I forget. HelloFresh. HelloFresh will deliver healthy meals to you. All you have to do is cook them. Or they even have meal delivery services where they'll deliver healthy meals. So think about some of those things, but the more you cook at home, the more you can control what goes into your food. So it's less chemicals and less sodium, and you know exactly what you're putting in it. So that's really important. And so you're gonna just strive to gradually build that up so you're cooking more and more at home. Okay, and then another thing is just creating success while you're dining out. And this certainly does not mean that you can never eat out. There's no way that that's possible. And learning to go to Whole Foods or doing all these things, it's not about taking away things that you love. Like, that's absolutely not at all sustainable. Whenever you're going out to eat, you want to just think about making healthier choices. Maybe it's looking over the menu before you get there so you have an idea. Maybe you can order salad with dressing on the side. Maybe you can ask if the vegetables are cooked in butter. You can ask them to just cook them without butter or whatever it is. Lots of restaurants now are really catering to people's healthy needs, like vegetarian, dairy-free. I mean, there's lots of options. So eating out should hopefully be a little bit easier now. Like I said, if you're working with a health coach or you're working with me, they can always help you to understand how to eat out more and that kind of thing. But again, you're just thinking about eating as close to the source as possible. So maybe ordering salmon with rice and vegetables, that's gonna be a great meal. And if you can't find anything on the menu that's healthy, that's okay. Just enjoy your food and don't stress about it, because when you stress, your digestion shuts down. Okay, another thing when transitioning to a whole foods diet is you want to learn how to read labels. And I'm pretty sure I have a video about reading labels. I'll have to link that. But reading labels can be very simple, and I will try to keep it very simple for you. Whenever you read a label, you want to make sure that what you're buying is what's in it and not a whole lot more. So if you're buying a can of beans, you want to make sure it's just beans and not 8,000 ingredients. If it's 8,000 ingredients, then you probably don't want it because there's a whole bunch of other stuff in there. So again, you want to look for ingredient lists that are short and small, not super long. And also, the order that the ingredients are is the order the amount is in the food. So for instance, if sugar is the first ingredient, then that food's full of sugar. Even if it's the second or the third ingredient, that food has a lot of sugar in it. So just be aware that the order of the ingredients is the order of the amount of stuff that's in it, if that makes sense. Those are two really simple ways to read ingredient labels. Just make sure they're short, make sure it's what's in there, and make sure sugar is not the first, second, or third ingredient in your label. Also, be aware of food labels at the store because there's a lot of them and they can get really confusing. For instance, the certified labels that are good are certified non-GMO, certified organic, certified grass-fed. Another one is naturally grown. The naturally grown is reserved for foods that are produced on small farms, so definitely a winner. The non-certified labels to be aware of sometimes are no hormones or hormone-free, free range or free roaming. Can be misleading because you think that it means the chickens are outside all day running around having freedom, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. A lot of times it just means they have 5 minutes outside a day and the rest of the time they're in cages with very little room to move. So just be aware of that because sometimes we think free range, oh, this is good. What you're really looking for is pastured. Pastured means they're actually out on the pasture, able to graze and eat the worms and the everything else that they eat when they're out there. So that's what you're looking for eggs. There's also antibiotic free, which means they're raised without antibiotics. A lot of times you'll see the word natural on a product, and this can be misleading because it's supposed to say that it doesn't have any chemical products or artificial flavors or anything like that, but you can't really be sure because they're not certified. So maybe just be careful on the natural label side, I'll say that. If you see farmed seafood or farmed fish, that means they're raised in tanks and it's not super healthy for the fish. I would stay away from anything that is farm raised. You want to always look for wild caught when it comes to seafood and fish. Another one is also no additives, so that's in there as well. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few more ideas that will help you transition from a more highly processed diet to a whole foods diet. Starting with, I mentioned this before, but just start substituting more fruits and vegetables in for your highly processed things. So maybe you're having a granola bar as a snack. Maybe transition and do some plain yogurt with strawberries and some honey, some walnuts, you know, something like that that's a little bit more whole foods based. Or maybe it's just an orange, one of those little cute clementines, and a piece of cheese that's natural. You could substitute spaghetti squash for spaghetti noodles to get a little bit more veggie into your diet. And I don't notice a huge difference in spaghetti squash and noodles. I mean, it's really pretty tasty, so that might be something that you can try. Another thing you're going to want to do is look for local farmers markets. Maybe you have some year-round, or maybe they're just a few months out of the year like they are here. But that's really important to support those, because they always say you put your money where your mouth is. What you want to keep supporting, that's where you need to put your money. So if you want to have those healthy, fresh food from the farmers market, keep spending your money and help support those people, because they're picking the food when it's the ripest, which means that it's going to be the most nutrient dense and best for you. Because when things go to grocery stores, they'll pick them like 2 weeks in advance before they're ripe, before they've matured, and it loses a lot of the nutrient value. So to get the most nutrient value, the best for your health, farmers markets are where it's at. There's a lot of organic produce delivery services that you can get involved in, like Misfits Produce and things like that, where you know you're getting organic, good stuff that's not shipped through a grocery store a month in advance. Another thing that you can do is experiment. So there's a lot of ways that you can do vegetables. So if you're not a huge vegetable person, maybe you hate salad, try taking some vegetables and steaming them, or maybe try roasting them in the oven with some olive oil and salt and pepper. That's really good. Or maybe you want to grill them, maybe you like them grilled, or maybe even try sauteing. So kind of experiment around with different ways to cook and eat them. And like I mentioned before, maybe doing spaghetti squash instead of noodles. So think of different ways you can experiment and really just find the ways that work for you, so you're getting more of those whole foods into your diet. And then one other thing I want to challenge you with, there's a movement called Meatless Monday. Whenever they process meat, there's a lot of CO2 emissions that go into the air, and it takes a lot of the Earth's resources. So by just doing one day where you're not eating meat, that can have a huge impact on our Earth. So think about maybe adding in a Meatless Monday, just one day where you're not doing meat, or even eating smaller portions of meat if you don't want to do that. Maybe one day, you know, instead of a big portion of meat, maybe you'll cut it in half so it's a little bit less. So think of ways like that that can also benefit our environment as well. And as I mentioned before, if you're interested in going vegan or vegetarian, that is something that I can help you transition to in my coaching program. So feel free to reach out if that's something that you're interested in. I can help you transition, show you what to eat, give you support through the whole thing. So keep it in mind. So just to recap, if you're transitioning to a whole foods diet, the best things to eat meat-wise are things that are certified grass-fed, certified organic, anything that you know is from a farmer's market, fruits and veggies that are grown closest to the source as possible. Farmers markets are ideal because they're picked at the peak of ripeness. If you can't get from farmers markets, you know, get the next best thing. But again, trying to eat more fruits and veggies and whole grains, seafood that's wild caught, meat that's, again, grass-fed and things like that. Also, one last thing to add into your diet would be healthy fats and omega-3s. Omega-3s are things like flax seeds and chia seeds and walnuts. Also adding in like healthy oils like avocado oil or olive oil. Avocados are a great source of fat. So also making sure you're adding in those healthy fats, nuts and seeds into your whole foods diet as well. Okay, so I have lists of foods to eat, meats to eat, fats to eat, all kinds of things that can be massively overwhelming. But if you're interested in learning more about how to transition and you'd like more personalized help, I can do that through my coaching practice. You can comment below this video if you're interested in learning more. We can set up a free session. I can help you transition. I can give you cheat sheets. I will be there to support you. And again, just remember, like I said at the beginning, if you're transitioning into this whole foods diet, you want to do 1 to 2 things at a time. So I know this video has a lot of information in it and can be overwhelming, but I want you to pick maybe 1 to 3 things that really stood out to you that you're like, I really want to try doing that right now. And then you're just going to build on that. So again, don't overhaul your life in one day because that's not sustainable. The more you do little small steps towards your goal of having a more whole foods diet, the more you're going to get there, okay? And if you would like extra support, again, I'm here. Please comment. Let me know that you'd like to do a free session with me and we can talk and you can get to know me more and get to know if coaching is something that might be good for you, if you need that extra support and accountability. I would love to be that for you. So if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and I hope this will help you as you transition into your whole foods diet.